Welcome everyone to NEPA Story. I'm Kylie Montigney, and today we're introducing you to Dorothy Grill. Dorothy's a lifelong Scranton resident who recently opened her own business. She was diagnosed 2 years ago with ADHD, but she also engaged to the love of her life, Charles Miller, a three-time graduate of Marywood University, including her PhD in Organizational Leadership and University of Scranton Small Business Center Startup Program. She now can add an interpreter to describe herself. After losing her mother in December 2020, she started crafting, making wreaths, and more. When she began running out of the room for creations in her house, her brother suggested that she make crafting a side business. And so her journey began. She opened a Dragonfly Dreamer almost 2 years ago. With the help of the Scranton SBC and Penn State Law Clinic, she was able to make the company an LLC in June of 2022. After spending a good portion of her career working in the nonprofit field, she realized that not everyone could afford the luxury of having handmade wreaths, earrings, and Christmas ornaments. Pairing the idea with her background of realizing the importance of giving back to the community, she identified her unique point of the business. Her business mission is to sell unique products such as the adoption of a baby line at a reasonable price point that works for most families' budgets and to give back to the community. When started as an idea in October 22, is now a full business that today has provided 40 baskets to community events, has been a sponsor for annual Truck or Treat and Halloween marketplace for NEPA Strong, and for the last 2 years, and is a new sign sponsor of Manuka Cal Ripken Little League Fall Ball. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on. There's so many things I'm excited to talk with you today, but I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited as well.
So, what made you start a Dragonfly Dreamer? I know I mentioned literally a bunch of things about it in the bio, but what kind of made you want to start it based off your personal experience?
Sure. Like you said in my bio, once I had lost my mom in December of 2020, I turned to crafting to kind of deal with that loss. And as I ran out of room in my own house, my brother Anthony was actually the one that had suggested maybe you should go into a business because your stuff is super cute and I think you can sell it. And up to that point, that was something I had never thought I was ever going to be able to add was business owner to my resume. But 2 years later, here we are, and I'm loving it. The unique thing, like you said about Dragonfly Dreamer, is that we focus our mission on keeping our prices low. So if you come out and see us at a show in NEPA, you're never going to see anything above $35 at the booth. So um, with the push of being in the nonprofit field and especially working in a furniture bank at the time when I launched Dragonfly Dreamer, I realized not everyone is fortunate enough to have disposable income to be able to buy cute stuff for their house. So that's where the idea was born to launch business where we would keep the prices low and everyone could access the goods that we were producing.
I love it. I like that you keep everything under like $25 or so. That's because with not having a lot of resources to have money for some families, that's sometimes all they can afford is $35 or under. So that's something that, not a lot of businesses do. So I applaud you for that. But to having to lose your mother in 2020 in midst of the pandemic, like, that is one of the worst things anyone can go through. But I love that you found some sort of resource to kind of cope with that loss. Because when I lost my grandmother back in 2017, I couldn't find anything that would actually keep myself outside of grieving. So I kind of wish I actually found a resource. But you mentioned that your crafting has become a therapeutic outlet after you're losing your mother. But how did that experience shape the way you approach your business today? Because I know you said that you didn't think you would even start a business. So kind of tell us more about that.
Sure. Definitely, I think, I embody a lot of her in the business. My mother was the type of person that would literally, if she could, give you the shirt off her back. Growing up, literally, my house was the place to hang. And if any of my friends needed anything, she would find it in her ability, even though we were fairly, middle class, to provide for them as well. In addition, when I lost her, I got heavy into meditation as another way of coping. So with that, during the meditations, I was going to a lot of outside ones in the spring and summer of that year. And I started seeing a lot of dragonflies. And that's kind of where the name came from,
Mhm.
Dragonfly Dreamer. Um, because when I had looked it up, dragonflies are actually a form of angel. So I felt like it was her leading me to the name, especially after, I had decided in October of 20 to launch the business.
When I lost my grandmother, I literally saw the exact same thing, dragonflies everywhere when I walked around, maybe my neighborhood or something. And I didn't know the meaning of it until like maybe 2 years ago, I'm not like a big spiritual person, so I not really know that much about that stuff. I know you probably know more than I do personally. But when you start a business, a little after someone passes away, you're like, well, this is for them. Like, if it wasn't for, let's just say your mother, for example, like, your business probably wouldn't be inspired or fulfilled in a way if it wasn't for their memory. And I like the point that you brought up earlier about your house is really open for your friends or even family. And basically, your house was like quote unquote hang on spot. And that is kind of what my house is actually. It was
Right.
brought up. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is literally my house every single day. Because like, every time I hang out with friends or something, they're always over my house or something. So it's always like
Right.
a spot where everyone just comes over and literally can just sit there in like silence and we wouldn't care. Like it doesn't really matter. But even if you are maybe in the middle class or something, like helping out others is a free engagement. You don't have to pay money for it. Like any random acts of kindness can be free. What were some of the biggest like challenges you face when starting Dragonfly Dreamer and how to kind of overcome them?
Sure. So one of the big challenges I faced was I'm the type of person that likes to start something and throw herself completely into it. Dragonfly Dreamer LLC is my side business. I work full time. At the point, I was actually working two jobs when I started the company. So with it, definitely like trying to balance wearing all those hats plus my actual full-time job at the time. How I overcame that was like to calm myself down and say, you don't have to do everything overnight. A lot of times on Facebook around our anniversary, I'll share the first time that we did a craft fair up in Dalton, our first show. I clearly knew nothing about setting up for a craft fair. I'm lucky I remember my table because I was so nervous about getting up there and getting set up that literally I had to grab a blanket I keep in my car for emergencies to use as my tablecloth the first show.
Oh
So,
gosh.
so with that, to see kind of where we've come now that we have professionally done signs and we're an LLC, definitely taught me patience and taught me, not everything is going to happen overnight.
Mhm.
The other thing I had to come over quick was that piece of being organized. Like you shared in my bio, I have ADHD. One of my weak points with ADHD is my lack of being organized sometimes. And that impulsivity of trying to get everything done myself and not, counting on others, so to speak,
Mhm.
based on previous life experiences. What I learned is starting a small business, it takes a full army to help you build that up. And once I got connected with the Small Business Center in the summer after I had launched my business, that's when our business really took off.
Mhm.
Um, because they gave me the support and they were like, you can't do everything overnight. Focus on this one product line. I know you want to go, bing, 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 bing. Slowly build it up. And they taught me, it's okay to pump the brakes on. Like the adopted babies that you had mentioned in the bio, our newest product. They're actually just a year in existence, even though we're almost 2 years in existence. And it was something I wanted to do for the kids. And I actually brought one to the podcast. So this is what the adopted babies are. They're little figurines in jars. We sell them for $1 a piece. And the idea behind these is that kids can come up to the booth and have a booth that they can shop at for that dollar. And even if a family has 3, 4 kids, they're not pumping $20 out to get each child something to take home.
You had just answered my next question, actually. But like, it's great that I know I keep saying great in this episode, but it's really the best term because the way you make things affordable for families, especially young kids that are looking at your stuff and be like, Mom, Dad, I want to buy something. This is unbelievable. And I was the type of kid as well that wants to buy everything I see. So I'm just like, more the merrier, but the less money I spend is better. I'm sure a lot of people are like that, and I'm kind of like that as I get older. The less money I spend, the better. Even though I like to buy stuff no matter what. But just start a business or anything in general, no one knows everything. Like when I started podcasting a few years ago, I literally knew nothing. Like literally nothing. I literally just started and did your research or nothing. I swear to God. And so like that's how I feel like most people are, is that like they honestly don't know what they're doing when they start, but as time goes on, they learn more as they go. Even if maybe having a mentor or even watching YouTube videos for crying out loud. Like it can be anything like that you can start your business, but like that's something that I love that you said, is that like at least I feel more relieved that someone kind of went through the same exact thing as I did, because I literally did not know anything, like anything at all.
Right.
So creating handmade products can be quite fulfilling for a lot of people, but also challenging. What has been your favorite part of creating items like wreaths and ornaments?
Definitely my favorite part is getting to have that creativity and being able to look at the raw materials, especially, talking about the wreaths and the earrings, for example, and see what the final product looks like. And I just want to point out, like, a perfect example back here, because these are some of my wreaths behind me. This is actually a wreath that came out of a random shopping trip at a dollar store. I had seen these bottles at the dollar store for Halloween and just fell in love with them. I was like, I'm going to take you home and create a wreath with you. I don't know what that wreath is going to look like, but I'm going to make that happen. And bringing it home and like playing with the setup and things like that. I came up with the idea of filling them with tulle to make them look like they were actually potion bottles.
Ooh, that's so cool. Like I looked at the things when you joined. I'm just like, oh my gosh, these are so cool. Like the what like I know I'm not like a wreath person, but when I saw those in your background, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I already want to buy those already. Send me
And
some.
the funny thing is, a lot of times we'll get that when I'm at shows setting up. I'm not a wreath person, but that would look cute. The cool thing with a lot of our pieces is they can easily become a piece that you hang inside the house if you're not like a traditional wreath person, or if you have the setup that, like with some doors, we found out wreaths do not always work on the doors based on the gap between the screen door and the door. So a lot of times our stuff, you can either use it as a wall hanging.
Mm.
The other piece that I love with being creative with the small business is when I get the custom orders. And what I tell people is, if you want something, especially friends, family, reach out. I will be honest with you, if it's something I can't do, a couple times I've had to step back and say, that's not my skill set and that's not something I'm willing to spend the time to learn to do one product to make money. But, usually at that point, I will refer them someone in my network that has the ability to do that product so that I'm actually supporting another small business in the end run of it. But when
Mm.
I am able to do the product, I'm like the challenge, give it to me. And one of my best friends, Vanessa White, who is known in the Scranton community for doing free hugs prior to COVID, had challenged me this year at meditation. She came up to me, she goes, I got a challenge project for you. I want earrings that look like my free hug signs. I'm sitting there at meditation going, I have no clue how I'm going to do this, but I'm intrigued.
I'm intrigued.
And
They asked me, sis. I'll take it on.
so I took it on, and yes, I had a few screw ups, but we created a pair of earrings that she's able to wear in her work. And the amount of impact she's had with those earrings, where she would not have been able to have them had she not had those earrings, of people like being like, seriously, you offer free hugs? I could really use one at this point.
Hmm.
Has been like an amazing experience to get to kind of co-experience with her.
Hmm. Because anyone deserves a hug nowadays. Like, even if you're like having a long day at work or something, anyone deserves a hug after what they've been through in life, you know? Hugs
Right.
make a difference. So the last thing I have for you is how can people connect with you and Dragonfly Dreamer?
Sure. So there's a couple of different ways that they can connect with us. We are on Facebook as Dragonfly Dreamer LLC. We really like when people follow us. Occasionally, we just did our first successful local giveaway. I do have a few more of those planned through the holiday season. Additionally, we are on Instagram as Dragonfly Dreamer Crafts because Dragonfly Dreamer was taken on Instagram, so I had to kind of manipulate the name a little bit. And then we have a ton of shows coming up, which I'll be posting about on the social media channels. But if there's someone watching it that's sitting there going, I have this idea for a wreath, a pair of earrings, of course, they can always email us at dragonflydreamer2022 at gmail.com.
Awesome. So I will put all that information below for everyone to check out. And I really appreciate all the hard work you're doing. I literally see it all over social media. So I know that you are getting the word out there with your business. And it's really awesome. And I definitely have to look over everything, your reefs and everything, because I'm literally obsessed with the ones behind you. So I have to
Right.
get into it more. But I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And then just as a quick plug, if anyone's into pumpkin spice, we do have one more pumpkin spice based wreath right behind me that is available. And we will be launching a website hopefully by the end of the month as well. So check our social
Awesome.
media out for the announcement on that.
Awesome. Pumpkin spice is at Starbucks is honestly one of my fave. So I'm so glad you brought that up. But thank you everyone for listening. I'll stay tuned for next episode. Make sure to like, subscribe, and review. And I'll talk to you guys very soon. And